All right, we're live on Zoom. We're behind the scenes. We're a little bit early because today is a special show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going live on Randy. We're live on Facebook and LinkedIn. I think soon we'll be live on Snapchat and Tinder. Yep, it's all live, Randy.
Not for long, not till the censors find us, and then we've got trouble. Wow, this is the largest number of guests we've had on a show ever.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm with you, man. It's like herding cats, but they're special cats.
They're special cats.
Even more difficult.
Yeah. But cool. So I don't expect. Well, we got 4,000 people who've already showed up already. Carlos, Chan, Dulce, Sheldon. Cool stuff. Thanks for joining us, everybody. You're behind the scenes for the anniversary show, lunch conversations with Mr. Randy Wooden and Teddy Burriss.
That'd be right here.
And Lynda, you're stellar.
Thank you, Lynda. Hello.
Ooh, glamorous.
Hey, we're behind the scenes. So if you want to chat in any questions, then we can't guarantee that we'll be fully honest with our answer, but we'll take a stab at it. And just anything you'd like to know, but we'll kick this thing off top of the hour. But yeah. So Teddy, you always ask if people got a good night's rest.
Well,
I know that's important to you.
You know it's important. Did anybody not get a good night's sleep? Okay, so we got to fix that. Lynda, was it the weather or the cats and the dogs? What was bothering you?
Nothing's bothering me. I just have so much to do. And you need a good night's sleep when you have a ton to do. So instead, you just stay up thinking about all the things you have to do.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hey, Teddy, I'm not seeing you.
Brush my hair.
I'm not seeing us on Facebook on your NC Wise Man.
Randy. I saw it. I'm looking right at NC Wise Man. It's live, buddy. Hit the refresh button.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yep. We've been running for 2 minutes.
On Facebook. Okay.
Let me go check LinkedIn. When you said you weren't seeing me, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again, huh? Remember the last time that happened?
Yeah, I do.
I'm live on LinkedIn too, buddy. I'm seeing it.
All right, I'm going to go full screen with you on there, and we'll see what we can.
Do I need to call the technical guys?
Yeah.
So maybe back to the important
here
stuff.
It is. Okay, cool. Let me hit share, and we'll get ready to do this. Good deal. Okay.
So Lynda, I'm with you all day today. So I'm gonna provide my virtual, telepathic energy to help you get through all the stuff you need to get through today.
Thank you, dear.
And Val,
Sure.
Do you need a new mattress?
No. Under the category, it was something I ate.
Oh, in that case, yeah.
So
yeah, I get it, buddy.
If you see me dart out, my bathroom's about 15 feet from here. So
live TV, you never know.
You never know.
You never know what's going to happen.
All right, so this is cool. We have one more special guest who said he'll be a little bit late getting here, and then we'll have a full deck. And I'm really excited about it. That's right, you got 11. I got all this. Yeah, I got the whole system in front of me. Not only do I get the honor to play co-host with my stellar, absolutely fantastic buddy, Mr. Randy Wooden, but I also get to do the technical stuff. And, so I got 16 screens in my mind in front of me here that I got to be paying attention to make sure that all the wheels are churning. So this is going to be fun. So Kristen, remind me, where are you hanging out?
I'm in Cincinnati right now.
Okay. Right now, does that mean you're not always in Cincinnati?
It means this is where I physically live, but my heart is like near the ocean.
I get it. Yeah. Cool.
I'm near the ocean.
Oh, jealous.
You're in New York, aren't you, Lynda?
Yeah, many people don't know this, but we're an island surrounded by water.
Yeah. What part of New York are you in?
Really?
Lynda, what part of New York?
I'm in Queens.
Nice.
Right near about 15-minute drive from Atlantic Beach.
Yeah.
Very nice. Know the area well.
Good.
Hey, didn't we have who was that? Emily Lawson was on.
Oh yeah.
And I think she moved to Wilmington. She's putting photos of the sunsets and the starfish and enjoying life out there. So Good deal.
Making me
You know, I-
jealous.
sometimes when I see those
every
pictures,
day.
Randy, I ask this question myself:
Yeah.
how can you possibly get anything done in those conditions?
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I'd like to
I was a
try it.
graduate student
I'd like
in
to
Santa
try to
Barbara,
figure it out. I'd give it a try,
I'm
Teddy.
in Charlotte, but a long time resident of the Triad, lived in Greensboro and Summerfield for over 25 years, and moved to Charlotte just about 2 years ago.
All right, we're 2 minutes from the show going live. The producers are tagging me on my shoulder to tell me to pay attention.
Without knowing.
Well, so let's see, we're up to, oh my God, like 15,000 people. We haven't even gone live yet. You know, we're still behind the scenes. So, hey, all of you that are watching this behind the scenes, this is how a show comes together. We try to figure out who we are, what we're doing. We got all of our talking points over here. We got a list of people over there. Got my glasses cleaned up so I can pay attention to all the little boxes and see who's engaging with us. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a 90-minute extended show. We got the producers, we got the broadcast, the network to allow us to go to 90 minutes. Let me tell you, that was a huge feat for us to get that approved.
Yeah, we had to bump the national network feed to create space for this thing. So, hey, we're going to get started in a couple minutes. Have fun. All of you have been on this thing before. We like to laugh, have fun. We inform people. And hopefully it's something that people will appreciate us doing. This is almost like going to a buffet, because you're not going to necessarily get the full hour of one topic, but we're going to hit on 10 different topics. So there's really not going to be a ton of overlap here, but I am going to be curious to hear what your take is. And I'll open it up at times to say, hey, what do you think about what so-and-so just said about that being important? What's been your experience with it? So we'll play with it, have a little fun.
It's noon. It's absolutely noon. Hello, everybody. Let me, I need to be appreciative of our sponsors. Our founding sponsor joined us earlier in 2020, and we're grateful for Brookmead Holdings joining us and sponsoring some of our shows. Good friends and good people. They've been doing career management work and outplacement work and customized job search coaching for individuals since 1993. Check out Brookmead Holdings. You can find them on Facebook at Job Search Coach Now. You can call them and have a conversation with them. They're really good people. And again, Randy and I both are grateful for Brookmead Holdings being our founding sponsors. They're good people, right, Randy?
Yep, they definitely are. And we're looking forward to a new year now as we step into year number 2. So yeah, awesome. Let's go, Teddy.
Let me start by congratulating both Randy and Teddy for their year. It's challenging enough to keep an organization together on a good day. And now we're facing, we've been living with COVID for more than a year.
Yeah.
So kudos to both of you for hanging in there and holding us together.
Thanks, buddy.
And I was telling him yesterday, Monday, we do a little short blurb show on Monday at noon. And I said, Teddy, we will have been together longer than a lot of marriages. 1 year and we're still together. So good deal.
You know what? Here's something that's fun to know. We only see each other twice a week.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there.
It could be.
Something you said.
Let's get her started, Teddy. Yeah.
I'm Teddy Burriss, and I'm a Burriss Consulting. We're social media strategists, and me and my good friend, Mr. Randy Wooden, been doing this for a year. As of tomorrow is the official 1-year day. And this is lunch conversations with Randy and Teddy. And you get a special treat today because we brought in 10. We will have 10 of our special guests join us for this anniversary celebration. It'll be a 90-minute extended show full of maybe some laughs, maybe some good times, but most importantly, lots of ideas and nuggets that you can take away and use in your life, in your career, and your business. Hey, Randy, would you again, please introduce yourself to my good friends?
Look at my notes. Randy Wooden. I work for Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, and I run our professional center. As you might expect, we help professionals with their job search, whether you're employed and looking, as a lot of people are kind of getting in that mode right now. Says, all right, it's time to look. We're happy to help. We're free. And then, of course, you've got a lot of folks that have been displaced due to COVID. And then that's a whole other ball of wax. And we're going to actually talk about how COVID in 2020 has shaped our businesses and how we see things moving forward. So find me on LinkedIn. Happy to help. We work by appointment. And again, just reach out to me. Very accessible. We're happy to help. Just so you know, folks, Teddy, you want to take it for a minute?
No, I just want to remind everybody,
Yeah.
this is our anniversary show. We want to know where you're coming from. So drop a chat and let us know what city and state or country you're from. We got Staten Island on here as well. So, but anyway, yeah, we want to know where everybody's hanging out. So Randy, back at you, buddy.
Yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to have some fun here. And this may get a little confusing at times because Teddy and I, we're amateurs at this thing. But what we want to do is we want to have each of the 10 folks that we've invited on here to talk a little bit about their topic, some of the takeaways, some of the things that are important about that topic that you as an attendee might want to keep in mind. I think we'll also ask a little bit about how COVID impacted you. What did you learn about yourself or about your business? What changed in 2020? And then if you can kind of dust off the crystal ball and see, okay, looking ahead, what does your business look like? How has that changed? And what are your thoughts and expectations and hopes for 2021 as we go forward? We'll also open it up for questions. Teddy and I are going to tag team this chat box. And so chat your questions or comments in there. I don't mess with the question and answer thing. And I think we all know that. So don't go there. But if you do have a chat it in, and we're happy to get that started. So unless we've got other bookkeeping things, Teddy, I'll get started.
Make it happen, big guy.
All right, man. All right, we're going to go in alphabetical order. And being as I'm a W, I never liked that, except when one time the gym teacher said, okay, we're going to start from the back of the alphabet and work forward. But Kristen, we're not doing that today, though. But I'm going to start. Val Boston joined us early on, actually, probably summertime or so, I'm going to guess. And his topic then and today also is diversity, but also networking. So Val's got a double header thing going on here. So Val, who are you? And tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you get involved with.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you,
Yeah.
Teddy. Good afternoon, all. Val Boston III. And if you're curious, yes, there is a fourth.
I met him.
Yeah.
We thought we had a fifth, but my daughter-in-law said that was enough, so she cut the string. I'm originally from Boston, ironically. Have lived in a lot of cities in my corporate life, and in 1994, living in northern New Jersey, working in Manhattan, Lynda, and had enough of New York and discovered North Carolina. Moved here, didn't know a soul, just started over, and it's been a great ride. 2000, after I like to say corporate America and I decided to go in different directions, I launched my own consultancy. Initially doing HR related compliance kind of stuff, safety training, sexual harassment training. I'm sorry, sexual harassment prevention training. I got to be careful with that. And then about 12 years ago, got involved in this diversity space and have also received my executive coaching certification. So my practice is around diversity and inclusion consulting and also executive and leadership coaching and career coaching. So that's sort of my story and who I am.
Yeah.
Randy, do you want to ask questions or
Yeah.
shall we?
Well, let me do this. So let's take the diversity topic first. And
Sure.
I'm just guessing here, but I'm going to assume that more so than any other topic that anybody is going to talk about today, that diversity has risen in prominence more than any of them. And so I'm kind of curious if you have some takeaways and observations about how effective or how embracing have companies truly been, and what can we do to raise awareness even more and actually walk the talk?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First off, there's a lot of companies that give this topic lip service because it's, it's socially popular, if you will, politically popular these days. I work with organizations that I like to say are enlightened because the landscape's large enough that you should not necessarily spend it. And I'm sure this applies to everyone's practice. Spend your time with people that don't get it. It's a waste of time and resources. But it has changed. And I like to define diversity, not probably what all of you are thinking it is, but I like to define it as respect for differences. We talk about difference. When we think about the word diversity, most of us immediately go to race and gender, right? However, we think about difference. David and I both have on glasses, as Lynda does. That makes us different. I have grandchildren. That may make me different from some of you. I was born in the Northeast, live in the South. I think differently. That's another measure or metric, if you will, around difference. Lida said you're in Cincinnati, did you say?
Lida? No, I'm in Denver. I'm in Denver.
Who is in Cincinnati?
I'm in
Kristen,
Cincinnati.
Kristen, right across the river from Covington, which is a very different world, isn't it?
It's a good world. I like it all.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a big difference across the
Sure.
river.
So we talk about difference, right?
Yep.
Some of you are blonde, some of you are brunette, some of you have a follically challenged, like Randy and I. Some have a full head of hair. So we think about that. Now, that's from a sort of a definition standpoint. When we talk about an equally important word called inclusion, inclusion is about creating this environment where all employees feel they can contribute to their maximum abilities and be valued, respected, and rewarded for their contributions, regardless of how they show up. Now, that's a lot harder than just being respectful. And what I like to talk, when I talk to clients, the fact of the matter is inclusion is not a management mandate. It's not a memo that the CEO sends out and says, hey, we're all going to be inclusive. It's really something that has to be practiced by everybody. And if we had more time, we can get into some exercises that we can all partake in to really test our inclusivity just from a mindset standpoint. What does that have to do with networking? Well, the world has changed, and we all have this thing that we sometimes shy away from called bias. And those biases are all legitimate. They're not right or wrong, they just are. And those biases all come from our individual respective life experiences, the journeys that we've been on since birth to 12:11 p.m. on the 7th of April, 2021. Everything that happened to you this morning, yesterday, 5 years ago, affect how you see things. So when I say, biases are things like, I feel more comfortable living in this type of community based on economics, based on ethnicity, based on gender, based on religion, whatever it happens to be. Doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it is, so to speak.
Sure.
Sort of testing my English language there, but what makes it is. The trick is we have to really understand what our individual biases are.
Those are the impactful words right there, Val. We have to understand what our individual biases are and then why we have those.
The why is a lot easier than being able to manage them so that we don't get in trouble. So when I link this back to networking, you show up, we show up for an interview. You walk into the lobby and it's a beautiful lobby. There's a receptionist there behind the big desk, and you ask for Val. You have an appointment with Val. Val shows up as a tall African-American male. You do not expect Val Boston to be African-American and male, right? I get a lot of mail addressed to Ms., if you can appreciate. So you might immediately think about something about me purely based on what you see. And what you see comes from your life experience. So I have to be careful not to put that bias as my lead and check myself, so that I'm going to be as effective and professional as I can be, regardless of the fact that Val happens to be African American. Well, let's reverse it. Val shows up for an interview, and I see a African American woman who I'm interviewing with. I have to be careful that I don't position myself differently with her because we happen to be the same ethnicity. So when we talk about networking, again, understand your own journey, understand the bias, become more self-aware, and I think we become much more effective, not just in networking around jobs and building our own respective pipeline, if you will, but it's really about how we become more effective in this world.
Great. Thank you, Val. And if we have some time toward the end, we're going to maybe explore a little more in some detail, maybe some other people's experiences in dealing with client companies in the diversity space. So let's do this. Let's move on. Teddy, it is your turn, and David Burton, I think you're up next.
David, where did Lucy go? Unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, no, Sally, the dog, she's in the other room now.
Okay, so yeah. We had a great
But she
chat
just heard her
with
name,
Sally
she's coming
earlier.
back.
What kind of dog is Sally, David?
She's part Boston Terrier, part Boxer.
Looked like a nice sized dog when she was
It's
sitting
about 30 pounds. It's a good size for a pet.
So David, reintroduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit more about who you are, what you do.
Hi, yeah, I'm David Burton. I am an executive recruiter for nonprofit leadership. I work for the Noel Group in Greenville, South Carolina. And as my title suggests, I help nonprofits nationwide with executive search. So some of my clients right now are corporate foundations and food banks. And I'm part of a practice that has different desks in food manufacturing, logistics, retail wholesale, physician recruiting. Who else we got in there? Prosthetics, orthotics, and regulatory space. So I've got my little part of the world, but I also hear a lot of what's going on in some other spaces.
Yeah, good. Hey, and David, if you don't mind, because you're directly in that space, if you didn't already, drop your LinkedIn profile URL in the chat for our audience to find you. While I'm asking you to do this, think of one tip that you think that you've always known or you just discovered that would be powerful for our audience in the context of job search and working with recruiters.
Well, I mean, I think it's something that every recruiter knows, but is surprised when they're talking to candidates that they don't know that. And that's really the value of, kind of getting to some of the stuff that Val works with, networking strategically with a recruiter. And that doesn't mean going out and sort of friending every recruiter you can find, but finding the recruiter who is sort of a subject matter expert in your space, somebody who knows about the industry that you want to work in. That's going to be somebody who's going to be a lot more valuable to you. So, say if you're, an engineer, I'm happy to connect with you, but that's just not my world. I might be able to refer you to somebody. So when I say, find a recruiter and partner with them, that's what I'm looking at. Find people who are creating knowledge, adding value to your feed, other than just say, I'm recruiting on this role. And there are ways that you can support one another in the process.
Yeah, I like that, what you just added at the end. There are others who you can help along the way. Mm-hmm. That's important to do. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So look back over the last year, David. What did you learn? What happened to you that really caused you to look at what you do or look at the industry you're in a different way?
Well, generically, I think this applies to everybody, that we've had to reevaluate processes and, more importantly, reevaluate values. And so let's say 2 years ago, many of our clients, no, we don't do anything over Zoom. We don't do interviews over Zoom. We don't, everything has to be in person, in space. I like to look at somebody in the eyes, sort of cultural values coming into that. But because of necessity, okay, we we start, okay, we'll have to talk to people for a first stage on Zoom. To the point that you get now, we know you can't travel right now because of quarantine restrictions. Let us take an iPhone and give you a facility tour. And we'll FaceTime, we'll talk through all of this. And so it comes in two ways, and one of which is we're seeing organizations say we can do things better, and our team is happier because of some of the accommodations. So places that were definitely 9 to 5, you have to be here every day, are now saying when we come back, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's going to become hybrid because our productivity went up, our satisfaction went up, and by the way, it saves us some money on real estate.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that just when I advise candidates, when you're interviewing the company, you want to know what they're doing, and so we've always done it this way without thinking about it excuse doesn't wash so much now. So if there is, if you start to identify a dysfunctional process, you really have to take in mind that organization made an affirmative choice in the last 2 years to keep that. And so as an organization, you need to think about what that means for your branding, your reputation, however you want to put that, the values you project. But as a candidate, am I going to be happy in an organization that maybe has not been able to keep up with this?
Yeah, good point. A lot of what we feared, not everything, because there's still a lot of chaos to deal with, but a lot of the problems that we feared that this pandemic would cause for us actually turned out to be great opportunities for us to improve in lots of ways. So Good point, Dave. How about look forward, Dave? I mean, I don't know if you do, buddy, but I've got my own personal crystal ball, and I hope you have yours. So what do you see in the rest of 2021 and beyond because of what we've been through?
Well, I mean, we've already made it through one quarter, and looking at the first quarter and going into the second, it would be, if this continues, growth is there. So the nonprofit sector really got quiet last year. So getting very specific into my space, the canary in the coal mine in terms of cutbacks, and then in terms of coming back are development people raising funds. And so, half of my searches right now are, we want to hire fundraisers. That's the leading edge to say that this is an organization that is, going to expand programs and capacity. And so then with capacity becomes, say for workforce development, if, Goodwill is going to add more development people, then that probably means we're going to look at programs, workforce development coming up. So those are things that, I'm working on the development side, but I'm also kind of saying, look, what are they going to do with these funds? And how am I going to be able to help them support that further on? So that's kind of my pipeline for the second half of the years. I think it's going to be much more in programs instead of structures and development. But just broadly for my office, it's been really a hiring boom for the first quarter.
Cool. Good news. Good to hear that, David. And Lynda dropped in the chat that I think she might have wanted it to go totally public. And she said, from what David's conversation, in order for a job to be a good fit, the candidate must interview the company as well.
Absolutely.
Great point, Lynda. So Dave, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And by the way, thanks again for showing up on our show. Randy, take it over, buddy.
Lida Citroen. Lida, I see you all over LinkedIn, and you are an author. You're on TV nationally. You've got all kinds of things going on. So, and where are you geographically, by the way?
In the beautiful Mile High City, Denver, Colorado.
You still have snow from that big storm about a month ago? Or?
It's so funny because Tuesday, what was it? Monday it was 80 degrees. Yesterday we got snow. And today we're back in shorts. So, that's why we live here.
There you go. So again, let's refresh. Who are you and what are you here to talk about?
Well, my specialty, my expertise is what we call personal branding. And it's not just LinkedIn. It's not just, photography. It's how are you really showing up and how are you managing and driving results from a strategic reputation? So it's personal branding / reputation management that I specialize in.
Okay, good deal. When you were on here, we learned a lot. And so if you could refresh us a bit, maybe a talking point or two, or things that you feel like people really need to focus on that maybe they've overlooked.
Well, I think the point that I'm most known for is the comment that everyone has a brand, whether it's by default or by design. So to think you don't need this is a little naive, because what we've seen is, especially in the last 10 years and especially in the last year, is that branding, being able to bring forward your value proposition and communicate that in a clear and confident way, is what sets people apart, whether they're job seekers or they just want to keep their job or grow their career. It really is about how you show up and how you define yourself. And you already have a brand. So it's just whether the market is defining you or you're driving that for yourself. I think that was one of the key points we talked about.
Yeah. And okay, now let's look back on 2020. And like so many people, I'm sure your travel budget has shrunk a whole lot because but
my accountant actually brought that up. She's like, wow, all these expenses you used to, like, wow, that looks a lot different.
Yeah. So 2020's impacted everybody.
Right.
How has it impacted you? How has your business changed? Did you see anything from 2020 you didn't expect? Just look back and then also look ahead to 2021 and see, where's your business headed and what are you into these days?
Well, I think the biggest and most obvious shift was I'm not traveling. So I'm not standing up in front of thousands of people and delivering keynote messages or taking them through workshops. We're doing it all virtually. And I think there were a lot of people who just sort of stuck in place because they didn't know what that was going to look like. One of the first things I did is I grabbed my Amex and I bought a lot of lighting equipment and really good cameras and microphones. I even have a mixing board. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it, but everything runs through it. Because this is part of how I make my living is being in front of audiences and being able to deliver something of quality. But the other thing, and this I don't think was because of 2020, but it certainly blossomed in 2020. I've coached clients around the world as long as I've been doing this. But in 2020, I found myself coaching clients in, South America and Poland and countries that I probably never would have targeted. But they were finding me because the idea that we all needed to compete differently became a global issue. It wasn't an American issue. And so those were two big shifts. But I'll say I got 3 of my biggest clients for speaking in 2020, like biggest names that I couldn't have dreamed about getting in 2020. So for anybody who thinks it was a terrible year, it didn't have to be.
Sounds like you've really utilized the technology to leverage that to grow your audience globally. Looking ahead, any thoughts toward 2021? What's that crystal ball look like?
I think
Teddy's got his. I don't know if you have yours, but he's got that whatever. So
no, my crystal ball is more anchored in my faith, but we won't go there. I think what 2020 did, and it was such an opportunity for people paying attention, job seekers or people looking to grow or pivot their career, is it required us all to level up and to get more clear, more specific, more focused, because the days of just showing up, doing work, being on time and on budget wasn't what we were competing off of, right? We saw employers stop looking just in their own community to hire because people weren't going to an office. So if I'm in Greensboro, I don't necessarily need to only look for work in Greensboro because I can work for a company in Palo Alto, California, and stay in Greensboro. A lot of people started moving and companies started looking at a global marketplace instead of just local, which meant, again, competition ratcheted up. So a lot of the job seekers that I'm talking to or the programs that I'm offering are focused on how are you specifically making yourself relevant and compelling, not only for that job, and not only for that company and not only for that industry, but for all of them. I had an opportunity at the end of last year to do a talks at Google, which is kind of like a TED Talk, but it's specific to Google. And one of the things, I was having this conversation with one of their lead recruiters, and we were talking about the job search process. And she brought something up that I thought was really important that ties into this. She said, I'll always ask a candidate, why do you want to work at Google? And I don't want to hear the answer, well, who doesn't want to work at Google, right? I mean, looks great on a resume. Employers want to know why this job at this moment and why you, right? It's really about, as I think Val or David said, interviewing the company, but really bringing your value proposition forward. And that's branding, right? Branding is a very simple process. It's not rocket science. And they love that joke at Lockheed. But it's not rocket science, but it isn't easy. Because in building a brand and being strategic and focused, you have to understand who you are. And we might think on a surface, oh, I'm self-actualized. I think about myself. I know who I am. But you're going to now position and sell yourself to an employer to get a job or keep a job. You have to be super clear. And as Val mentioned, perception, judgment, bias, they play into this. And I would even say cultural biases, religious biases, community biases, even the influence you get from some of your social media gurus, right? They feed into how people are going to perceive. And how they perceive you is really important. The days of selling off of a resume are long gone, right? A resume looks backwards. A resume looks at what you did, not necessarily what you can do. So a brand is really that opportunity to say, here's my story from what I've done in the past, which makes me perfectly qualified and excited about this opportunity. And here's what our future will look like if I work with you, right? Past, present, future, not just the past. So everything shifted. And I think that's a great opportunity for people really looking to build a career and not just get a paycheck.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I know we're about halfway through. So Teddy, you've got some housekeeping to do. And then Noel and DiBona, you're up next, by the way. So Noel, put your seatbelt on.
Can I make a real quick comment on what Lida just said?
Go ahead, Val.
You know, what's interesting about that is, I lost my thought. Go ahead.
Good.
Sign of age.
Sorry. Oh, you know what? You could never say you lost your thought during a Google interview. Hey, again, I want to thank Brook Meat Holdings for being our founding sponsor in and around our first year. They're good people. They're career management professionals, all about helping individuals in their job search through good professional coaching and through webinars and educational experiences they provide. So if you know anybody or if you're looking for that kind of support, look for our friends Brook Meat Holdings on Facebook or give them a phone call. So again, thanks for being our sponsor throughout this year. Back to you, Randy.
Yeah, well, we're ready to move on to Noel DiBona. And Noel, I know you, Teddy, you have Noel. He's next up on the alphabetical list. Noel, it's good to see you again. It's been a few months. You doing all right?
Hit your unmute button, Noel. Somebody came in and muted you.
There you go. All right.
Got it.
All right, Teddy, take it away.
Good seeing you,
Thank you,
buddy.
Randy. Thank you, Teddy.
I know you were back-to-back sessions, but I appreciate you being able to peel out and spend time with us. So,
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
thanks, Lobb. So, Noel, remind the audience who you are and what you do, please.
Absolutely. I'm the owner of DiBona and Associates. We are a consulting firm that allows our clients to achieve higher levels of productivity. And we tend to work with individuals, teams, and organizations, but really everything we do is mostly centered around teams. And part of that is around self-awareness. And that's what we're going to talk today a little bit about.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So then take that, Noel, take that self-awareness and drop a nugget or an idea on the audience in that context that can help them in a short little tip.
Yeah, absolutely. We use a brain-based model, which we convey lots of different types of information and perceptions to people that we work with. And we either are going to attract people or we're going to repel them based on how we operate, not only by what we say, but what we don't say in our body language. Yeah. We'll zone in on a little bit more of that as it relates to assessments and being a self-aware leader or a self-aware professional that is looking for opportunities with other companies.
Yeah. So we always got to be paying attention to the fact that we have the ability to either attract or repel people based on everything about us.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we really center in on are a few different ideas around how we deal with people. For example, if you have folks that are working for you or you're working with them on the team, their ability to contribute and feel as though they're competent in what they're being asked to do is hugely important to them, being open and having a good perception when working with the rest of the team. Similarly, if there's a lot of trust in that team, those people are going to be very approachable in a trusting environment. If you make them feel important, there again, you're going to allow them to be approachable, to approach you. But when you go into staff meetings and you see people are keeping things close to their vests, they don't want to tell anybody a problem because they're afraid of some kind of retribution. In those environments, they're not as open. And that's why we use a brain-based model, because it's just below the surface.
Yeah. And Noel, while we're chatting, when you're ready, drop your LinkedIn profile URL in the chat for the panel, for the audience.
Oh yeah, sure. I'd be
And
happy
while you're preparing to do that, think of this for me and share this idea. What did you learn in the last year that's helped you or has impacted you in your business in some way or another?
Well, to what Lida was talking about, we jumped in with both feet in the virtual world and converted our business from basically 90% in person, 10% virtual to flip-flop it. I've been out in this year to just a couple of the clients, but we're taking on a tremendous number of new clients in 2021. And what we learned is to accept that challenge of going in the virtual world, and it's been really good for us. But I would tell people out in the audience that are looking for employment opportunities that 2020 was the largest displacement of capital, human capital in decades, right? And there's a lot of opportunity out there because there's a bunch of companies that have had to make changes and there's a lot of upheaval, but there still is a ton of opportunity in that chaos.
Yeah. So that feeds into how you see the future. How do you see what we've been through and how it impacts us moving forward?
I think with what Lida and David and Val have been talking about, that there's a lot of opportunity going forward. We're very encouraged with 2021. We think it's going to be a great year. We want to we want to concentrate, accentuate the positive, and we want to be able to equip people with the tools to be able to, grab the bulls by the horn, so to speak, and make it happen for them in 2021. We're very upbeat about it.
And I'm with you, buddy. Accentuate the positive. Focus on the positive. Don't dwell on all that other stuff because that doesn't help us move forward. So, no, again, thanks a lot for joining us. Really do appreciate it, buddy.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Teddy. Thank you for having me. Thank you,
buddy.
Randy.
Randy, back to you.
Go Red Sox, huh?
Yeah, go Red Sox.
Hey, we're on a winning
Boston stuff, don't you, Randy?
We're on the winning streak right now.
Yeah,
right?
man, we're doing good.
What's the magic number? Is like
we need to go up to Fenway and.
Read a story about last night's game in the grocery cart.
Oh, that's so they walk after a home run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to move on. Dr. Lexi Lane is our next guest. And oh gosh, Dr. Lexi, you were on 4 or 5 months ago. I'm going to say somewhere around
January.
there. Was it? Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies. So refresh folks on who you are and what your specialty is here and what you came to talk about.
Sure. Well, so there was a Mary Kay quote that was just put in the comment box. No matter how busy you are, you must take time to make the other person feel important. Well, I'm going to say, no matter how busy you are, your health is really important, and we mustn't let that ball drop. And so that's my message. So I'm Dr. Lexi Lane. I'm a naturopathic doctor. Those who do not know, integrative medicine, functional medicine, and I really specialize in energy. And in regards to, you've got the brain fog, the burnout. Karoshi is a Japanese term for death because of working to exhaustion. And so energy is really my main focus for those goal-oriented, driven individuals who are forgetting about, hey, gosh, I got to take care of myself. So that's me.
Mm-hmm. And Teddy's always concerned about our health because he asks whether we got a good night's sleep or not. So,
right.
Teddy, yeah, keep up the good work there, Teddy Burriss.
Yes.
All right. So, so you are not what I would call a traditional physician where I go in and you issue a bunch of prescriptions and set. So help us understand, what are a couple, 3 takeaways from our discussion back in January that you think would benefit the folks watching today?
Sure. So I always like to use a bucket analogy. So if you can imagine your body as, a cup or a bucket, and we're going to fill into that cup or bucket things that are going to inflame us: alcohol, sugar, lack of sleep, energy drainers in regards to people and places and things, etc. Right? So this fluid line, this inflammatory line is going up and up and up and up. So what I do is I work with people on identifying what's going into your bucket and how can we start removing some of those obstacles. But then if we could imagine poking holes in that bucket, that's how our body eliminates toxins. Okay. So part of that, yes, is the elimination. So we got to pee and poop and detox and breathe and sweat, but we also have to feel. And so emotions is a big piece of that. So I take people through a journey where food is medicine. Absolutely. I'm not just going to tell you, oh, just go eat right. No, I want to teach you how to eat right. And what does that even mean? Because diets are like Cinderella shoes, where not one diet is going to fit everybody's foot. And there's a lot of things out there. So I really help kind of sift through the confusion. But food is medicine, getting you to move. And yes, balancing hormones. I can test you till the cows come home. But really what we're doing is we're really getting to the root cause of dysfunction and really getting people back into wellness. And now more than ever, this is so important, especially with something like this virus that really, if you had obesity or disease functions that, the more chronic conditions you had, more problems you had. But if we're going to talk about, the bias and your personal branding, when you walk into an interview, when you take care of yourself, you radiate your own light and energy. And how well you're taking care of yourself will show up. And in those first impressions, people can tell, and you're more important than your job. And I think that's a really important, thing to take into when you have this time, when you're looking for your next step, that, 2020, what it taught me was that, all these little fabulous tools and skills that I actually tell people, I implemented every single thing that I tell my patients. Why? Because my whole world fell apart last year, but yet I radiated health. I finished that year better and more resilient. And my business actually thrived by the end of the year because I was like, I am going to finish this 2020 strong. So even though you're anxious and depressed and, and all the things that go on in our minds, because mindset is a big piece of what I do as well. I need to decrease sugar. What the brain says, oh, I don't want to do that, right? We come up with all the excuses as to why we don't have time to exercise or time to cook. That's your mind giving you obstacles. And so we have to overcome that too. So I really take a whole person approach to wellness.
Good deal. So it sounds like 2020, you said your world changed. And it did for a lot of folks, but it looks like you're on the upswing. Things have taken a turn and you've taken control over the situation. So hats off to you. Anything else you want to add real quick before we move on to our next guest?
Yeah. So, you're asking about, what is 2021 and then moving into 2022. So my, to the listeners and then also to the panelists, yes, it was about pivoting. And so, one thing for my business was that, yes, I took this time as an opportunity to change. And so it's more of a program based now instead of, okay, I'm going to give you this tool and you're going to go off and go and do. So that's one thing that's changed in my business and practice for outcomes to improve. Secondly, is that we need to heal as a culture, and anxieties and depressions at an all-time high. Healing takes time, and so I would say 2021 is really a nurturing and a rebuilding and putting yourself back together so that you can be in 2020 blast off. So just give yourself some grace for healing, and that's what I will say with 2021.
Good deal. Interesting. And we've got 10 guests and each has a different facet to talk about. We've talked diversity, networking, executive recruiting, personal branding, assessments, health and well-being. And Teddy, you're up next with Daniel Lobb. And what's that topic going to be? So Teddy, we need to tell Teddy,
We're gonna
Unmute your
find
mic.
out, buddy.
unmute your mic over there.
Now, see, my problem is that I don't reach for the keyboard. I reach to the microphone, hit the stupid little red button.
The little cough button.
And I also didn't want to have you hear my neighbor out there mowing his lawn. Like, come on, guy.
Close your window, man.
It's closed now. So.
Okay, good.
Daniel Lobb, thanks a lot for being on here, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, and great to be among such fine company. Thank you.
You and me both, buddy. So Daniel, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, please.
Sir, I'm Daniel Lobb, president of TRP Enterprises. I work in the training and development space. Most of my time is spent teaching a concept called totally responsible person. It's the idea that I am responsible, I and I alone am responsible for the decisions I make, how I manage my emotions, the attitude that I carry. It's a provocative concept. It's something I kind of, to Dr. Lexi's comments, it's something that I strive to practice so that I can teach it. But that's what I do to earn an honest living. And I'm here in North Carolina, just a neighbor to Teddy Burriss, actually just down the road.
Yeah. And I like the fact that it's important to you to earn a honest living.
Well, thank you.
He was going to be a horticulturalist, except when I look at the back in there, is that plant
He's
gasping
not
for
gonna let it
water?
go, is he,
Okay,
Daniel?
Randy,
Is that-
we've gone 45 minutes. That's how long it took you to ding my plant. Okay, I appreciate you, buddy.
You know,
Good
we need a bigger budget because we got to provide water now. So Teddy, better dip in your pocket for that.
And Miracle Grow too, huh?
Miracle
Daniel,
Grow for this too.
I'll leave Randy alone with his thoughts about your plant. But hey, look, share. Dude, I've been following you and listening to you for years. I like the phrase "totally responsible person," and for years I'd say it wrong. I'd say "totally responsible people," and I know that's not the right word. And I got it. It's person. I'm responsible for myself. So thanks again for that reminder. Hey, how about one tip, Daniel? One tip or a couple that you have that our audience can benefit from.
Yeah, so thinking about this show and preparing for it, and I think we're all to a lot of the comments, we're in such a unique climate, not just the business climate, but the whole world going through this pandemic and still not really understanding what the post-vaccine era looks like and what the new normal looks like and all of those things. And each of us have had some scale of disruption go on in both our personal and professional world. Some of us, it's like massive disruption, right? Others, maybe less so, just depending on where we come from, what we're doing. For me, I think that this past year has been about taking advantage of this pause that has been inserted into our lives. I mean, just reflecting back on a year ago today, we were all sitting in our homes, on strict lockdown orders. Many of us with jobs suspended. And so I think a lot of our listeners today are perhaps affected from that as well, still being in transition, looking for a new position, but that's a pause. Mm-hmm. And I think as stressful as those opportunities can be, I do believe they are opportunities, right? We don't often get afforded the chance to have our routines interrupted in such a way that we step back and can reflect on what is really important to us. So I know for me personally, this last year has definitely been a year of reflection and growth. Decisions that I've made to do things differently that I think have been, my wife's not here to tell her point of view, so we'll just hear the truth, and that's my side. But I think that's been good for my family, the fact that I'm home more, that I'm more present. And so, we're making decisions around how do we want to live our lives moving forward? Do I really want to be gone in an office? Do I want to be traveling a lot? Those kinds of things. So I think my counsel here is take advantage of the pause. And the second aspect of that, if I may, is that I think about every job I've ever had. I convinced that employer that I had value to offer. And so, some of those employers naively believed what I was there to convince them of. But I think the other aspect of that is there's an opportunity here to develop resilience. If we're going through a challenging job search, dig into that, lean into what is that experience really about? Because at the end, those things do make us stronger when we choose to see them that way. And I know for me, the experiences that I've had that have been challenging and difficult have absolutely been some of the most growthful times in my life. And I'm sure every panelist here could attest to that as well. So those are things I'd like to share with our listeners today.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm with you. Take advantage of the pause and revel in the chaos and how it can help us grow. Yeah. So maybe take that other step then. I got that. You wrapped up a little bit about where I want to go for the future. Maybe,
Right.
Maybe that's a big part of the future. What else do you see for moving us forward and in 2021 and beyond in life?
Yeah, so kind of a little bit more philosophical in nature here with that too, Teddy. But I think my own story maybe not so different from others as well. But I found when we looking back and looking forward, when we first got into the lockdown quarantine kind of situation, my mind went, all right, let's get really good at virtual. Let's do video recorded stuff. And after contemplating, did we want to pivot our training and consulting business to like a virtual recorded video kind of business, which seemed attractive initially? But the more I thought about my strengths and what I really love, I love facilitation. I love being with people, even if it's on a Zoom, but the real-time conversation. So I think we're all in a position to be creative, and we've certainly seen that. We heard some comments around, oh, we can't work remotely. Well, we did. We've all discovered that we're probably more capable of doing things that previously we didn't think we could do. So I think the future job market, I think for my business, probably for many of our businesses, is there's opportunities to be creative in how we deliver our products and services, and to really highlight what we do well and to pursue that. So for me, moving forward, we're going to be focusing a lot more on resiliency. It's something that we've always taught, but I think there's more opportunity now because it's recognized that we are all in need of that ability to be resilient.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Daniel, for us to look at ourselves and beyond those of us who have businesses who, we need to look at ourselves and figure out how our products and services need to change and pivot and adjust. But even as individuals and individual contributors and people in job search, we should all be looking at ourselves and go, what did I learn in 2020 as a human that I can use to be a better contributor for an organization, and how do I celebrate that? So I like those words, buddy. Thanks for poking me and making me think with that. So
yeah, I like the way you phrase that, Teddy. Thank you.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate you and your plant showing up today. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the love. Okay, Randy, take note, Randy. That's how it's done.
All right, Randy, can Randy, are you going to be able to manage this conversation with Cindy Martin? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be listening to what you say to her and how you engage with her. And if it's not professional and if it's not using etiquette, I'm going to tell you, she's going to let you know.
All right. Let me start with the one thing that I know I shouldn't do, and that's this. So I'll put that down. Cindy Martin has been on here twice with two kind of quasi-related topics. So we're going to just kind of meld them all together, and that is professionalism and etiquette. And this is neither of those, just Daniel, neither of those two, but Noel, gotta love the socks. So here we go. All right, Cindy, who are you? And what are you here to talk about?
I am Cindy Martin. My company is Smarten International, and I help people smarten up their professionalism from the standpoint of how they say things, how they act with people, their civil communications with people, and now, as Val said earlier, especially in diversity and how we are addressing those different people. So it's really a gamut of about everything, including your body language.
It is, and there's so many areas that deal with the body language and deal with how we present ourselves overall. if you had a couple, 3 talking points or factors that you shared when you were on our show that you think would be paramount today, why don't you share those with our viewers today?
The words from our mouths
Mhm.
must act and copy the gestures that we use. If we do gestures that are the opposite of what we're saying, please listen to me, instead of please listen to me, it affects how someone sees you. From the minute that you walk in the room, people are making assumptions of you. It's what we do. And you can change that simply by the way you walk into the room and the first words out of your mouth. So important. One of the things that we're doing right now, when we get deep in thought and we're listening to all of the people talk here today, we have our resting face on. And a lot of us, some of us more than others, it's almost a frown. And you wonder if people are enjoying what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we need to learn to have that pleasant look on our face so that we're not perceived to be so serious or kind of mean.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on there. That first impression kind of thing that you talked about, and there are always the stories of how you don't get the second chance to make that. And, you know, I've got them too, and I'm sure all of us have them, especially if we deal in the hiring process. And that first step, when you see somebody and you see Val Boston, for example, and you're expecting a female, and next thing you know, the guy's jaw drops. And you just wonder, and how does that set the tone for the rest of the interview? Hey, Sindy, I know your business has seen a huge change during COVID. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are some things that you experienced? Maybe things that you saw that you didn't expect?
Well, first of all, I'm like everyone else. I went out and bought all my my equipment and everything else so I could be ready to go. The other is that I got creative. I actually started a program of Zoom etiquette so that I could teach people, have the light better in your room, using your gestures, making sure people can see you from the waist up, that type of thing, so that you're coming across really well. One of the things that I'd love for Val to do is to teach us the diversity that we speakers need, because we need to change some of the things that we say, especially when we're using the he and she and that type of thing. We've got to get more neutral now, and we are making mistakes that we're going to be called out on. So I look forward to having that conversation with you, Val, and seeing you put together a program for those of us that do presentations.
Love to do it.
Gotcha. Teddy, we've got just a couple minutes left, but I did want to ask, at least in this half hour, I did want to ask Sindy as far as the future and her crystal ball and what that looks like moving forward. And if you could share a couple of thoughts on that, where are we headed?
I think, just like Daniel Lobb said, I think that the future is so exciting. I think that we have truly taken 2020 and reevaluated ourselves, our values, and where we want to go. So I actually, being just like Daniel, I want to be with the people. And especially when you do teach body language and that type of thing, you really want to be with them. But I feel that we're going to do a combination of it. I think that, like Lida said, we're going to reach people further out than we ever have before, because we were put into that situation and have become more comfortable with it.
Yeah, we have. And I think we've learned some patience and adaptability along the way. We've had to, or, adapt or die. Essentially. So a lot going on there. Teddy, it's about top of the hour. So you want to take care of some housekeeping, and then we'll move on to our next guest.
And Lynda, I need to go find that Wall Street Journal article about why Zoom interviews are better than in person. That sounds like an interesting article. And you're muted.
The article did get a lot of clicks, I heard. So I'll be happy to go find it and put the URL, except you have to. Yeah, actually, there's a paywall. It's the Wall Street.
Yeah. So, anyway, good to hear you wrote that article, but that is important. So, hey, let me see if I can do this right. I think I know how to do this. Again, I want to thank our founding sponsors, Brook Mead Holdings, for sponsoring our shows throughout the year, on and off, and really they came to Randy and I said, we want to sponsor your anniversary show. because they told us they really enjoy the show. They really enjoy what we're doing. And we're grateful for them and grateful for all that they do to help job seekers and people who want to manage their careers in a better way. So look for Brookmead Holdings LLC. They're on Facebook, and there's a phone number right there. Give them a call, and I promise you they're great people and they're always willing to help. So, all right, I think I'm in control of this next chat, right, Randy?
You are.
Me and my buddy Mitch Miles. Mitch, man, I really appreciate you coming. I appreciate you showing up earlier in 2020 when you were with us. So
well, it's great to be back, and it's I'm just thrilled to be here and to be representing a topic that is certainly dear to my heart and dear to probably everyone that's a panelist today is this platform we call LinkedIn. So, I'm a coach, I'm an encourager, I'm a storyteller. I help others that find themselves at a crossroads in their life and at their career, really to make that next best decision in their life. And many times it is that career decision, and it is fun to look at this platform that any of us probably could give this LinkedIn talk, right? I mean, we're on it, we're believers in it, and a lot of our business comes from it. But it's just neat to see where LinkedIn is headed, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, lots of changes over the last few months, which are pretty impressive to see happening. So Mitch, take that and play with it. And how about a couple tips that you can throw down for the audience that they can get value out of it from LinkedIn?
Yeah, so we all went remote, and we've mentioned that several times that we were forced into it, and for those companies and organizations that kind of shied away or were fearful of having employees remote, it just happened. And so not surprised with this statistic, but the number of remote jobs that were posted on LinkedIn increased 6 times during the whole pandemic. So that didn't necessarily surprise us. I think one of the things that did surprise me is that LinkedIn is now in the top 25 most visited websites across the globe. So that's an interesting stat, but I would have a tip for everyone that has the, I think it's called your career preference section or open to work. Yeah. When you go into that, very specifically, don't forget to check off, I am open to remote work. Yeah. So even though we all are now, it's important that we just make sure that we check that little box in the job preference section.
Yeah, good point. Mitch, you got another one? Another really cool tip.
Well, I mean, I think, the other cool tip that I would say is just and it's simple, but it makes sure that your URL is customized. And it's a basic one for you and I, Teddy, and all the and Randy and all the LinkedIn experts that are on this call. But it is really so important to not have the long extended, LinkedIn on your resume. LinkedIn has become your business card now, and it's your first impression. And to not have a custom URL really backdates you and shows that you're not, with it.
Yeah, you do. I use the words, Mitch. It shows you don't care.
Or you're not paying attention. Yeah. You're not up to date. Right. I do. There's a question here that Lynda has, and that is, what's my opinion on the work badge? So I'm very passionate. I am not a fan of the work badge. And I say stay away from it. I think, David, you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, from the recruiter side, and I know that if you're a candidate, you don't have the view of it that I do, but it just, I want to let you know how it looks on my side. If I say I am looking for executive directors in Irvine, California, I'm going to get 1,000 names, but then I can start getting filters, and one of the filters is open to work. But right below that is most likely to respond. And so LinkedIn is basically tracking whether or not you're a good citizen. You can save the big brother talk for another time. But what that means is if I send you a message on LinkedIn, you are very likely to respond to me, even if it's no thanks, I know somebody else. And so I see no, I have no stigma either way with it, but if you're cautious about advertising your open to work status while you're in work, I would do that. But I would also say, based on an experience I had yesterday, if you're open to work, make sure you're able to receive in-mails, because I actually sent a candidate an in-mail yesterday who did have herself advertised as open to work, but has opted out of in-mails. And I think I ended up finding her home answering machine and left a message there. But
you found her what?
A Rolodex.
So that's personal branding. I'm not putting a lot of hope on that one. But yeah, because I mean, I would be really cautious on that open to work signal if you're in work. For example, let's say I work for the fast food restaurant that Teddy Burriss owns, and Randy Wooten owns another franchise of the same restaurant. Depending on how you flag that, it's at your corporate side up. It's not supposed to be available to people in your network, but if Randy asks Teddy, hey, can you go and look on this site and see who on my team is open to work? It's not a good practice, but it's very possible for somebody to get a whole list of everybody in their organization who's checked that box. So back to what we've talked about with branding, add value, be a content expert, and you're on LinkedIn not to look for a job, but for professional development. So yeah. Mitch, I'm sorry I hijacked that, but I've seen a lot of discussion on that.
From a recruiter standpoint, I think it's so important that our viewers hear your direct opinion on that great question. So
I want to chime in on that briefly, because back when I had hair, I used to be a headhunter, and it was a long time ago. For sure, if you do put open to work and you accept the job and you're on a job, make sure you take that badge off, because that could be an awkward conversation 6 months down the road with your new employer. But I can tell you from at least my experience as a headhunter, if you have what I'm looking for, the hard skills, and you've got back in the day, let's say a good resume or a good reference from somebody else, I want to talk to you, whether you're looking or not. And frankly, if I'm going to collect a big old fee from an employer to fill an opening, I got to find that needle in a haystack. And a lot of times that needle in a haystack is not advertising that they're open for work. They're busy doing a good job. And so I get it that maybe they may not respond as often if they're busy doing a job, not interested, but I still want to have those conversations. So it's an interesting topic. And I know you've been back and forth on it. I know others on here. I think, Lynda, you've been back and forth on that on LinkedIn, and
I am dead set against it. 100%.
Yeah, there are pros and cons either way. And so, but that's one of those things that a job hunt is subjective. There are certain things that we feel like we should be doing based on it's always been done that way, or based on I trust so-and-so's judgment. But ultimately it becomes a bit of a subjective thing. And as we're seeing here, there are pros and cons on that. Hey, we're doing really well on time, by the way.
We are, but I'm not done with Mitch. I got more
I got you.
we got to do with Mitch.
Okay.
Okay. So buddy, what have you seen over the last year or so that has changed the way you look at what you do and look at the service and the value you bring? What has happened to you that's impacted you in a positive way?
Well, as a coach, I will tell you that the biggest impact, and this is what my topic was when you, Randy, and I talked, and that is the loneliness that there is, the disconnection that we've all experienced at some level, but it's deep. And I'm not sure we really know the full impact of it but it is something I rub up against every single day in top executives that, you know, we thrive off of being with people, and we were going into the office and we were seeing people and we were, you know, hugging and shaking hands, and just that physical distance that we miss, that Zoom can't provide, that these experiences can't provide. And I would just say that we've got to be willing to ask for help. We've got to be willing to, you know, share that. And I would say to anybody that is experiencing the disconnection and the loneliness, that you're not alone, and that all you have to do is just, you know, reach out. I mean, reach out to me, reach out to Teddy, to Randy, you know, and know that there's so many people there that are pulling for you, that are willing to help you and to step in, and that it is normal. It's, you know, the massive change that we all went through, to not, you know, sit in the same conference room, to see each other down the hall, or to, you know, look over a cube at someone. I mean, we're all missing that.
Yeah.
And you're not alone.
Interesting, you bring that up, because, you know, pre-COVID, one of my almost daily activities was to go to a Starbucks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about knowing anyone. It's just being around other human beings. Right? Right. So now you go to a Starbucks, masked up, you get your drink and you leave. You don't, there's no interaction.
Lingering. Right.
And the barristers don't always have the greatest conversations anyway, because they're frustrated too.
Yeah.
But good
Well,
point.
And I would just jump in with one quick thought, because Teddy and Randy, what we talked about actually was military, and that's a subgroup that I work very closely with. It's very hard, especially coming out of an environment that is so family oriented, camaraderie. They're really having a tough time with the social distancing, lack of emotional connection too. So it may just even be the people that you don't think are struggling. But I love your point, Mitch. We do need to reach out and just check in with people, and whether they've worn the uniform or not. We're all kind of trying to navigate this new normal. So I just wanted to put a little comment in there for our men and women in uniform.
Thank you. Thank you. Sindy, another thought?
There's a couple of questions in the chat that I would like to hear the answer to. One was from Lynda to Lida. I think it dilutes your brand, right, Lida? And that was talking about that badge, the work badge.
So Sindy, I'm just going to give you a little tip here. You can Lida horse to water. That's how you say my name, Lida.
Okay.
So everybody thinks of me as a horse lady. I didn't understand the question. What dilutes your brand?
That work badge.
Well, Lynda, it was Lynda's question. Lynda, what was you referring to?
Yeah, my feeling is that everyone is a professional in their own space, right? So as a professional, you don't advertise, hey, I need a job. You respect your brand, as you know, your professional brand is valuable. So by hanging a shingle around your profile picture saying I'm open to work, I think it dilutes the professionalism of your brand, Sindy and Lida.
I mean, I think, again, everybody's brand strategy is different. So I don't think it's a bad thing to let your network know what you need, right? If you need a job, right? I mean, we've got to feed our families. We want to build our careers. There are ways to do that. So I've never seen the open to work badge as, it doesn't say I'm desperate for work. It doesn't say, please help me, I'm drowning. It just says, hey, you know, I'm open to opportunities. And I do advise in some cases for people to be more overt. I don't think it compromises professional brand, but if that's the only place your brand is coming to life, you have bigger challenges.
Yeah.
If the rest of the context, you know, if the rest of the context isn't there, this one little circle isn't going to make or break it. If the rest of the context supports it, then, you know, being overt, if I don't know that I can help you, I might pass over.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you. You let your network know, you know, and you rely on your network, especially those second degree connections. But remember, everybody, including potential employers, sees that badge.
And again, my point is, if that's what you're hanging your brand on, then there's more opportunity you're not taking advantage of. So I don't put that much weight on the headline or the individual components. That's why I don't put as much weight on just the resume or just how good your camera is. It's consistency and everything complementing each other that makes a brand. A brand is not one element by itself. So, and it's also not about being perfect. So trying something and seeing if it works, as long as it's on brand, it's not going to hurt anybody. If it's off brand, if it's insulting or inappropriate or not inclusive, that's where we run into risk. But a brand isn't one thing. And so that would be my opinion. That's the advice that I share.
I get it. And the really cool thing about this is there's lots of different ways to use the different tools that are available to us.
Right.
And some tools apply to lots of people and some don't. And so what we need to do is make, listen to the wise advice that we hear from different people from different perspectives and figure out how to apply that. I tell people day in and day out when I'm doing my work, I'm Teddy Burriss, I'm full of ideas, use them how you see fit.
Yeah.
Randy, I got one more for Mitch, but you got something else?
Well, no, we need to move on. We're about 15 away from the end. So we're going to move on to Lynda Spiegel. And Lynda, you are up next. So thanks for joining us all the way from New York, right? In New York?
Okay, so
yeah.
After 15 years as a global human resources executive, I leveraged all of that experience to develop my own resume writing and LinkedIn profile writing service. So I've been doing this since 2014. 2020, as soon as the pandemic became a thing, I think everyone was in shock. So March and April were kind of dead for me. But since then, I have been overwhelmingly busy, and Dr. Lain, I really need to take better care of myself because business is booming. Nothing much has changed because I work from home anyway. Although like Val, I do miss going into a local coffee shop and just getting the energy from being around other people. But, I have two very active little grandsons who come over once or twice a week, and they keep me revved up and full of energy. But with respect to resumes, I think Mitch covered really important points on the LinkedIn profile. Getting that customized URL is the first thing I tell my clients to do. I do think I will respectfully disagree with Lida about what's in the headline. The reason you want, and again, I don't mean to be stepping on Mitch's area here, but it folds into what I do with the resume. You want your LinkedIn profile to come up on a search as a passive candidate. And when I was hiring people, I would put in search terms like UI UX designer NYC or marketing manager for my London office, and then I'd see a whole page full of people. So the algorithm on LinkedIn is so heavily weighted in that headline. It's really important that the headline's really key. But resumes, the one thing I've been telling people is you don't have to worry if your job ended in 2020. You don't have to worry about an unemployment gap because like everyone who looks at that resume knows 2020, if they see that as an end date, they know why. So you don't have any explaining to do. Other than that, not much has changed. The resumes that I work on with my clients are value proposition focused. So they're not really about every function you've done. It's more about differentiating yourself through very, very specific examples of what you've done. And to Lida's very important point, it shouldn't just be about your history. It should be crafted in such a way that your potential to an organization is very obvious, what you will be able to do in the future. And I don't want to cut into Kristen's time, so I'll shut up.
I got it. Well, I got to ask you this. Looking ahead, so it sounds like your business has really thrived here after the first couple of months of COVID. So it's still going strong. Are you seeing any change as far as the level of position? I think more of your resumes are for senior level folks, I think. Are you seeing more resumes of people who are currently employed and proactively looking, or are you seeing, again, predominantly those who are still out of a job that are seeking you out saying, hey, I got to get back in the game here?
Most of my clients are still working, and those who lost their jobs, it was, they were pretty senior, and it was pretty obvious that it was just a downsizing thing. The one change I would have to say about the pandemic was that I felt, since my business was doing so well, that, morally, I felt it was important for me to donate some of my time to people who were not on a mid-manager or senior level and do their resumes pro bono. And I don't tell them I'm doing it pro bono. I tell them there's a fee. And then when we're finished, I say, it was on me. Good luck.
Got it.
Good.
All right, well, let's move on. We have, last but not least, begins with a Z. Teddy, you're up.
Thank you, buddy. Kristen, thank you very much for hanging out with us today.
Of course, this has been so much fun. Before I forget, I'm gonna type my contact info in the comments so everyone can find me if you want to connect.
So introduce yourself to the audience and tell them what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Kristen Zavo. I am a career coach and the best-selling author of Job Joy, Your Guide to Success, Meaning, and Happiness in Your Career. And it is just, my mission, my purpose to help high achievers to figure out what they actually want. It's usually not where they are, right? Because we all play by the rules, we work hard, we climb the ladder, and then we get there and we're like, wait, this is it? Why am I not happy? So I help those people figure out what they want and then build a plan to get there, whether it's a new job, whether it's a career change, or even if it's launching a new business, which a lot of my clients have been doing in this past year.
Yeah. I remember when we met, I listened to the conversation when you were first on the show, and it really resonated with me. And, that we have to find what it truly is that we want to be doing in life so that we can be happy more than outside that 8 hours we work, across the whole 24 hours. So, hey, how about a tip, Kristen? One tip that we can drop on the audience in regards to Job Joy.
Yeah, so my topic was interviews, and I'm going to give you a couple reminders, but then I have a really good rock star question that you can ask. So of course, you need to do your research on the company, on the job, on competitors, right? You want to come with some really smart questions. You of course want to have some really good stories to be able to answer the questions they ask you. But the rock star tip that is not for the faint of heart is at the end of the interview, you're going to say something like, I've really enjoyed getting to know you and the team and learn more about this role, and I'm even more excited about it. And I'm curious, do you have any reservations about me joining the team? And I know there are probably people listening that are like, oh my God, I could never say that. But the reason you say that is it's showing your excitement, showing you're being proactive. And this gives you an opportunity to get inside the mind of the interviewer that you otherwise wouldn't have had, because so many people leave the interview, they don't get to the next step. And then they say, can I ask for feedback? There's no benefit for them to give you feedback. It's uncomfortable. There might be reasons they can't tell you the truth, right? Maybe someone else was already internally going to get the job and you were just a check the box. Maybe it was someone with someone else's favorite. Maybe their budget got cut, right? And they don't want to tell you that. And so when you ask that question, you kind of put them on the spot. You're going to get the most honest answer. And if they have hesitations about hiring you that they wouldn't have said, you have a chance to answer those objections. So if they say, yeah, I really love you, I could see you working with our team, but when we come back to work, I'm concerned you're too far of a commute, right? And this is your opportunity to say, oh, it's not an issue. I miss my time in the car. I listen to podcasts, or actually, I do live close, or I'm just here with my parents, right? While we're in this situation. Or if they say, we're really looking for someone with more supply chain experience, right? And you think you hammered this home. but they still didn't get it, right? This is your chance to reiterate, great question. And, I have 10 years experience in A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
So that's my rock star question, not for the faint of heart, but definitely recommend doing it.
Kristen, back in selling 101, we used to call that the Columbo close.
Yeah.
Remember Columbo, the TV detective?
Yeah. Yep.
He was always on his way out the door, and he would stop and say, I had one more question for you.
Yeah.
And I think the only comment I would make is that's a great, powerful question, rock star question. Make sure that you're talking to the right person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not always talking to the hiring manager at interview 27, right? So I think it's important to make sure you're talking to the right person to get the.
Kristen, we got a few minutes left before we have to close. What do you see 2021 and beyond holding for us?
I think job seekers are becoming more picky. I think that companies are showing their true colors on so many things, just everything that has been top of mind for us the past year. And, I think this has really been an opportunity for, as someone was talking about the pause, right? For some of us, for the first time in our adult lives, since we were like 18 and choosing a major, to actually stop and say, what do I want? Is this the life that I want? And does this job, does this career support that life? Not the other way around, right? So.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
And
Thank you.
I read somewhere that by the end of this year, it's going to be the roaring 20s all over again. Yeah, I think I believe that. The only thing is we want to make sure there's no Great Depression at the end of it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I got one more quick comment.
Quickly, Val.
I will. We've always heard in our lives it's important who you know, but it's really more important who you know.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Or who knows you.
Or who knows you.
Yeah.
That's where So, hey, I'm speaking. I'm gonna hand it back to Randy in a minute, but I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for Randy when I say thank you, all of you, for joining us today. We're very blessed to have you hang out with us, participate, share, and bring knowledge for our audience. So thank you very much. Randy, you want to take it?
Yeah, I can. I'm active in our SHRM chapter here in Winston, and I get a lot of emails. And lately, they've been feeding information about the upcoming turnover tsunami. And surveys have shown that over 50% of those surveyed have said that they are going to actively look for a job this year. Over half, and those are employed folks, and a full quarter of them are just going to up and quit because they're fed up, burned out, life balance is way out of whack. And now that we see the light at the end of the tunnel, companies are ramping up with hiring. It's robust, like some of you guys have talked about. Hey, I have a legit chance to get a job. And so the heck with these guys, I'm going to quit and I'm going to go find what I want. Whereas during the last year, if you still had a job, unless the job totally sucked, you were going to hunker down and stay there. And that's just the reality. So the pendulum is swinging, and it's really good to get different perspectives here, because we've got 10 experts all kind of hitting not just job hunting, but also professional development and how we engage with other people in our personal and professional lives. So this has been really, really cool. It's been very informative. And I wish we could triple your pay, but Teddy won't, loosen the purse strings there. So we'll work on that for next year. How does that sound? Teddy, I've got a quick story, and it's so quick. And then I know we've got to.
Then we'll talk about our next week's guest.
You bet. And I write a lot of columns in the newspaper, do a lot of stuff in the media. And some of the things that we talked about today, and I forget who brought them up, things like adapt or adopt and be resilient. I've got an article coming up Sunday's paper. I think I don't know when it is, April 11th. So yeah, this coming Sunday. And it's about 1 year into COVID. Where are we? What have we learned? Where are we headed? And things that I've learned, patience. I've learned this whole thing with Zoom. We all have to learn on the go, learn on the fly. And so I think we've learned patience. I think we've also learned compassion and sympathy. We see people dying, literally dying. We see healthcare workers, and we see these poor guys working in retail. I mean, and fast food and all these places that are essential workers. And I think we've grown in compassion and understanding. And so I think moving forward, I hope we don't lose that. I hope we don't lose that and go back to, hey, I've got mine, heck with you, because we are all in this together. And whether we do it from home or at the office, this world is a different world. So Teddy, I'll throw it to you. You got a quick one, and we've got a great guest coming up next week.
Yeah, that's your guest. So yeah. So look, I just want to remind us all that we're all going through this chaos, and together we're walking through it quicker. Or maybe the ground we walk on is firmer than others have to walk through it. And I'll echo what Randy said and others said. We need compassion. We need compassion in our lives, and we need to share that compassion. And Lynda says she's given away more because it's the right thing to do. And I think it's important for all of us to give what we can, because that's and not only is it the right thing to do, no matter what religion you are, but call it what you want, it comes back to you. So give with no expectations, and not only does it feel good, it's exciting to see someone benefit from what we can give, whatever that is. But call it God, life, or karma, it comes back. So give, be compassionate, and know that we're walking a journey differently than other people are walking. In 2021 and beyond will be a better year. So, Randy, who's our guest for next week, buddy?
Yes, it is Susan Rooks, the grammar goddess. And if you guys hang out on LinkedIn at all, I see you guys nodding your head.
She's a good friend of mine.
And she has actually steered us to several other guests that have appeared. We've got Gary Foster the week after that, and that's another friend of hers. He's out in Denver, I think. Lida, where you are. A guy named Gary Foster, and our former CEO of Goodwill, Art Gibble, will be our guest on the 28th. But yeah, Susan Rooks is going to be on next week, the grammar goddess. Yeah. And she'll teach. She ain't
gonna mess with my head, is she, Randy?
She's gonna learn you a thing or two over there, Katie. But it's going to be looking and sounding as smart as you are. Looking and sounding as smart as you are. Her last name is Rooks. Follow her on LinkedIn. She's got a ton of content, and it is so cool. And she's got a twisted sense of humor like I do. So this is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time, and I'll have to get a thesaurus out, I think, to make it through the show. But we'll do it. Yeah, cool. We've done it. We've done things that are difficult before, Teddy. We've made it a year.
And we'll do it again, Teddy. Buddy. Thank
you, everybody that was here today. And thank you for tuning in. We just had a great time. This is a lot of fun, guys. And let's do this again. Yeah. Let's do it again.
Nice to
have a great day.
Take care.